From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Hi everyone, I'm News Channel 5's Chris Conta here on OpenLine tonight, where we are continuing our candid conversation about teen suicide. This is a problem that has been plaguing Tennessee for years now, and the numbers seem to suggest that it is a problem that is only getting worse as time is going on. Over the last few weeks, photojournalist Mike Rose and myself took a closer look at this problem and one young teen's story.
Just getting through the day and just think about what we have.
We try so hard to hold on.
And kind of, you get lost, you just lose yourself,
when life forces us to let go.
Well, hopefully, these memories will be just happy.
There is a certain kind of permanence to the strokes of Jason Irwin's brush.
There's that little hair.
It is a feeling he longs for.
I'm looking at him.
His works typically go for hundreds of dollars.
So this is some local stuff that I do around town.
But this latest portrait, he can't seem to let out of his hands.
I miss him.
Because before this was a painting, this was Jason's son.
This gap, me to him, right here, we have this real thing.
Eli Irwin's flowing blonde locks were rivaled only by his smile.
He's just a sweetheart. It's
very silly.
Which is why his mom and dad can't explain or forget this past January.
Not on our radar. No. Not that.
Jason knew something was wrong when he descended the stairs to the basement, in the same corner which has become his studio.
This space is Eli's room.
Is the spot where Jason lost his son.
Still, I can't believe it. That was it. He was gone.
The 16-year-old had taken his own life.
So there's this surprise element of it in the shock, along with the grief and the loss. Miles, would you like something to drink?
10 months later, this now family of 3 is no closer to finding understanding. Eli had struggled with depression, but like the canvas beneath his portrait, the signs were hidden.
Talking to him and doing the best we felt like we were doing, and but maybe he saw it as, we're just somebody else that's against him.
And the Irwins are hardly the only parents in pain.
You've got a whole community now who is at higher risk of suicide.
As the regional coordinator at Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network, Samantha Nadler helped advise Eli's high school counselors in the days after his death.
No, it wasn't just him. Yeah, we saw several students die in the Middle Tennessee area.
Last year, 49 children under the age of 17 died by suicide in Tennessee. That's up from a 10-year low of just 31 in 2008.
It is important that we're having this conversation today because suicide is a silent killer, and it is killing people because of the silence around this issue.
No need to tell that to Jason and Katie Irwin.
A lot of emptiness. You just want him there.
So imagine how they felt when Eli started coming back home.
These are the letters.
When Eli died, 2,000 people packed St. Henry's Church.
Everybody misses him. A lot.
Jean Marie Moles was one of them. In her eulogy, she told every person in the church to take out their cell phone. Then she said this.
And set a reminder on your birthday to write a letter to Katie and Jason telling them something they remember about Eli.
That was back in January.
Homemade cards, store-bought cards.
The letters have been showing up every day since.
I never met him, but I know he was a hero.
They don't come with priority postage, but to Katie and Jason, they are worthy of first class.
I feel proud of him.
Yeah, I was super proud.
Most are memories. Some, though, are from others dealing with the same internal demons as Eli.
I was able to recognize my depression. I've been able to get help and begin a journey. My hope is to help others. For me, he was a symbol of having awareness and education around suicide.
By planting seeds of kindness, belonging, purpose, and acceptance.
I hope they know what an impact he had on people, whether they knew him a little or a lot.
It's comforting to know that people are coming around to the idea of, well, let's talk about this. Let's figure some stuff out. Let's help these people or these children, you know, get help and get treatment or therapy or whatever it is they need.
I want to hug him so bad.
Most of this makes little sense.
It's almost like I'm getting to kind of touch him in a way.
But if they save one life, talking will be worth it.
You know, he's always going to be like this, forever.
Suicide may be a silent killer, but Katie and Jason know silence is no way to be heard.
Maybe make a difference in people's lives for the better.
Not an easy conversation to have, but we are going to try our best to continue it here on Open Line. My guests tonight are Dr. Michelle Ficus from the Tennessee Department of Health and Clark Flatt from the Jason Foundation. The Jason Foundation, of course, you guys have been advocates for suicide prevention for a long time now. And you used to be a pediatrician.
I was.
So this is something that you have seen firsthand as well.
Yes.
Let's just start here by talking about talking. I mean, talking is the most crucial part in preventing this from happening, is what I have learned in the last couple of weeks here putting this together.
Yeah, you know, and I was watching your Facebook time, and you're right. The building the foundation of awareness is still the primary, I guess, goal. I was just asked a couple of days ago with the media what our main goal with the Jason Foundation would be, and if we can raise the awareness, getting people talking about it. If you're talking about it, then you're asking questions to your pediatrician. You're asking questions about something doesn't seem right, or where the resources are. What can we do as a community? What can we do as a state? What can we do as a nation to address this, as we call it, the silent epidemic of youth suicide? You know, we're losing 100 kids per week nationally to suicide. So it's definitely something that just by talking about it, raising awareness, you're making some good headroads.
And Samantha Nadler there from the Suicide Prevention Network was saying, you know, when we were sitting down with her, this is the second leading cause of death among young people, but you know, under the age of 17, aside from car accidents. And so that, you know, I think that says something, and it should say something to parents, and it should say something to teachers and anyone out there who is dealing with, you know, kids in this age group, right?
Absolutely. I mean, if it was cancer, we would be talking more about it. And so it's so important that we're having those conversations with our children, whether that's over the dinner table or whether we're bringing that up at the pediatrician's office to talk about my child's behavioral health. And you know, on the flip side of that, people who care for children, healthcare providers for children, should be screening for depression, screening for suicidal ideation, and opening those conversations with their patients as well.
How hard is it? You know, even when we were putting this story together, we kept running into problems. You know, even just saying the word suicide sometimes was hard, or, you know, there was different advice. You know, we were being told, you know, make sure that you don't discuss method, because that then maybe glorifies it in a sense. And so it's tricky, because there are so many different facets of this that you have to be careful about, because you don't want to, maybe there's someone out there who's thinking about it, and you don't want them to think, oh, well, if I do this, then, you know, I'll get this kind of attention or that. But you also, again, you know, this is a conversation clearly that is not being had enough, because this silent killer is taking more and more young people every year.
Right. And it's important to kind of demystify the idea that if we talk about it, it's going to lead to someone doing it. You know,
Right.
we have all kinds of myths around that, as far as all kinds of adolescent health issues, where we think, oh, okay, if we talk about eating disorders, they're going to become eating disorders, or if we talk about suicide, they're going to commit suicide. And the data just isn't there to support that's a real thing.
Clark, talk about prevention maybe a little bit. I know you guys do a lot of training. What can parents look out for? And I know that's a really hard question to answer, and it's very broad, but, you know, in the simplest sense, what could parents be on the lookout for?
Well, of course, they're the 5 basic warning signs. But as I heard, and we were talking about before we came on camera, really it's, I would hate to just center it just on parents. It has to be really a public health approach. That's why we look at doing providing training for the students themselves. They see the changes in their friends way before anybody else.
Yeah.
Now, this is not to make them counselors, but in order to equip them to better be able to recognize and know how to respond to a friend who might be struggling. Teachers are a big one. That's one that is, as you mentioned earlier, the Jason Foundation is very centered on a national basis. I really believe the single most important thing a state can do is to train their educators, again, not to be counselors, but to be better able to recognize those warning signs, have a protocol already set up within their school, knowing how to respond to those at-risk students, and then, of course, the parents, as you mentioned, the parents and the adults in the community. But the 5 warning signs, we could talk about that. You take the whole time to talk about those.
Yeah.
But
and I know, even when it comes to schools, Samantha was telling us when we were sitting down with her that there still can be a lot of pushback if this happens in a school community sometimes. Say it's a private school, they may not want outside help to come in and help advise them. And and she was saying one thing that happens a lot that really is probably one of the worst things that can happen when someone dies by suicide is an administrator or someone will take an entire class or an entire school in an auditorium and announce that a student has died by suicide. And that's really kind of the worst approach, because you need it to be smaller groups, because not everyone's going to react the same way when this happens, right?
That's true. And I think that I would say, when I was watching that too, that with this, we started in 1997, so we're 19 years old. Even though we have a long way to go, we have come such a long way from those early days in 2000 to where we're seeing a real change in our schools, as we have a lot of educators that are very appreciative of the training. They're seeing it's making a difference. They're applying it, whether it's through the Jason Foundation or some other organization that's providing. The main thing is to provide the training. But I'm seeing a more of a conversation, at least a little bit. I still, every once in a while, I hear somebody say, well, we're going to talk about the S word. You've got to be able to say suicide.
Yeah.
It's something that by not talking about it, we mystify it, by not talking about it in a very professional, upfront way. Just like we did, if you look at teen pregnancy, the way we turned it around was awareness and education. We're not through it yet, but we've made a turn. The same way with drugs and alcohol, awareness and education. I think we can do the same with suicide through awareness and education.
And again, we want people to join in on this conversation. This is a dialogue that we want to open up here to folks. If you do want to call in and ask us a question, see if we can get you some answers here. The number to call is 615-737+, 615-737+. We do have a few people who are on hold. We're going to take a quick break, though, and we're going to continue this conversation in just a few moments.